Coming up on this episode of The Sword. Vaccine requirements. As students start winter sports, the COVID vaccine mandate takes place in effect for athletes. A teacher from Kennedy returns from her Olympic experience in Tokyo. We'll catch up with her. Quarantine art. Kennedy students put on an art exhibit with works created during the pandemic. All that and more on this episode of The Sword. Welcome, Cavaliers, to The Sword, Kennedy High School's news magazine show, where we take an in-depth look and unique stories. I'm your host, Akilah Lewis. Winter sports start this week at Kennedy. With it comes new requirements that all athletes must be vaccinated for COVID unless you have an exemption. What does this mean for sports moving forward with MCPS? KCTV's Kimberly Savillon talked with student athletes about the new mandate.
As fall sports wrap up for MCPS students, the focus now moves on to winter athletics. If students want to participate in winter sports, there is a new requirement this year, getting the COVID vaccine.
For coaches and officials, face masks are still required for practices. However, during contests, those masks can be removed. For all spectators, the mask requirements are still in effect. You no longer have to wear your face mask while inside while actively participating in practices and games.
Coaches has also been impacted from the mask mandate. Coach Myers thinks that student athletes getting their COVID vaccine is a good idea.
I think the vaccine is a good thing, in my personal opinion. There's been, a lot of research, and I've done my research, and I think there's a lot of benefits in getting vaccinated. I understand why some people, have contrary opinions about it. But in my personal opinion, I think the vaccine is a good thing.
Many student athletes will have gotten their COVID vaccine even without the mandate from MCPS, but the requirement accelerated their timetable.
I think I'd eventually get it down the line, but I wouldn't rush it if it wasn't a requirement, though.
I'm not gonna lie, at first it was very interesting. I wasn't very fond of it, just due to the short period of time it was made.
Getting vaccinated was not a requirement. Yes, I still would have gotten it. I actually was vaccinated before it became a requirement. Again, I think everyone has their personal opinions, and I respect everyone's opinion about it. But for me and my family, I think that it was the best choice for us.
Even though it was a requirement for winter sports, some students felt there was more at stake to get the vaccine.
I think it's helpful. I'm not a anti-vaxxer. I'm not a pro-vaxxer. But I think it works good enough to keep you safe, especially those who have health issues, to where the vaccine can really kill them if they're not careful.
In Silver Spring, I'm Kimberly Savillon for KCTV.
Last spring, we visited with a Kennedy teacher who was going for gold in the Tokyo Olympics. Thea LaFawn made her journey to Japan this summer as a triple jumper for Dominica. While she didn't medal in the event, she came back to Kennedy and shared her experiences. Tatiana Diomi has the story.
When we last checked in on Thea LaFawn, she was preparing for her second trip to the Olympics as a triple jumper for Dominica. But now she's home.
Coming back post-Olympics feels like returning to family. The people here at John F. Kennedy High School have been my greatest supporters. And so to be back feels like walking back into a warm hug.
Ms. LaFawn, a special education teacher, spends her days with students. But when the last bell rings, she's on the track at Kennedy High School.
I'm so thankful for the community that I experienced here in Silver Spring, on Randolph Road at John F. Kennedy High School, that I want to be that for other people and for other students. So much of who I am today is because of the people I met within these walls here at Kennedy.
After a summer of competing, Ms. LaFawn recognizes her growth as an athlete and as a person.
The Olympics has changed me by making me even more resilient. I have been able to make history. I'm the first Dominican to make an Olympic finals. I think what defines me as a triple jumper is the fact that I'm not just a triple jumper. Beyond just being an athlete, I'm a teacher, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, and I have so many more talents and gifts outside of just the event. But I think what defines me as a triple jumper specifically is my competitiveness. I don't like to lose.
After competing in Rio in 2016, that competitiveness brought Ms. Safan back to the Olympics, and traveling to Japan provided for a unique experience.
So when I first got to Japan, I was a little numb. It was kind of surreal. I had just gotten off a 14-hour flight, direct. And one thing I did remember was that everything was Mario themed. The walls, Mario, Luigi was everywhere. And it was really, really cool. I really enjoyed that. One of the largest challenges and obstacles I faced at this Olympics was actually the time difference. So we live in Maryland, of course, and Japan is about 14 hours time difference. So normally when I would be sleeping, I had to be awake. It took me about 2 weeks to adjust to that time difference.
Ms. Safan has to face some injuries as she prepared for a jump.
I actually had a really bad heel bruise, and it's at the bottom of my foot, so you can't really ignore it. If I walk, I feel it. If I jump, I definitely feel it, along with the heel bruise. So it was really difficult because, you know, it's not a thigh or a shoulder. It's something you use literally every step of your day, and you feel pain.
But this was not a year she was going to hold back.
5 years waiting. We made it.
I definitely continued afterwards with these injuries. It's the Olympic year. Maybe on a regular year, I would probably have been more careful with it. Maybe had even, backed up a bit. But it was all systems go this year.
Even though her time in Tokyo ended in disappointment, she's not stopping there.
The idea is to still keep getting better year after year, to keep the competitive edge, to separate myself from the rest of the pack, and to come out dominant.
Will Ms. Safan be back for the Paris Olympics in 2024?
Do I plan to go back? Of course. Paris is 3 years away. Come on. What kind of question is that? Yes, we're going back.
In Silver Spring, I'm Tatiana Diomi for KCTV.
Thanks, Tatiana. Showing your creative side can be difficult even in the best conditions. Imagine having to share a space at a kitchen table with a sibling and having to create artwork. That's what some Kennedy students were faced with during virtual learning last year. But even under these conditions, these students were able to produce great work. Sophia Alicia checks in with an exhibition that showcases some of their work.
The current exhibit is sort of a mini exhibition. We basically took all of the work that they created at home in quarantine last year and they put it all together.
5 different artists display their work that they created under quarantine, away from a typical studio environment.
My artwork revolves around mental health.
Quarantine was a different experience for everyone. For Katya, her work revolved around how the pandemic affected the mental health of friends, family, and the people around her.
During the time I was interested in mental health, I was doing research, and some people around me I knew were struggling through it. I want to, in a way, show what they might feel when dealing with these emotions.
While for Pablo, his artwork was a way to show how he felt and experienced during quarantine.
I did this when I was in Bolivia during quarantine. So yeah, this represents all my experiences when I was there. And they are in order, basically. So I did this one first, this one, and so on until this artwork. I was going through a lot, family conflicts and stuff. And I experienced a lot of things which made me have a lot of ideas and thoughts. So I had this influence that made me do this artworks.
During quarantine, each artist had a different experience. While some had a good experience, others had a hard time trying to create their pieces.
In my house, we live 8 people, so there's always noise. I have some little cousins, my aunt who works at home. So yeah, I just put my headphones on and I heard music and I could get my thoughts together. I prefer here in school because there's a lot of material that I can use here and I can hear feedback from other people.
Quarantine kind of helped a little because I was at home. I didn't really have to go around and move around a lot. So I could stay focused, and because I'm doing it in my room, I kind of had the opportunity to be in my room 24/7 because of my classes. So I got to work more on the artwork compared to now. I have to move around to all the classes, so I can't just sidetrack and just work on it on the side. So I think it was a little better.
In the end, all artists got their artwork in on time and are proud of what they have done.
I'm really proud of everything that they did on their own. I know it's really difficult. I mean, it was difficult for me to come up with lessons and ideas of what we were going to do every day and keep everybody motivated. So I'm just really proud of everything that they've created.
In Silver Spring, I'm Sofia Licea for KCTV.
That does it for this episode of The Sword. Do you have an idea for a story that might be good for the show? Use the link on the screen to submit your idea. Stay social with KCTV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for the latest information and updates. Join us next time on another great episode of The Sword.